Okay, for this project, for the large square, the blanket portion of this, I used Bernat baby blanket yarn, which is a super bulky. I think it's like polyester. Yeah, 100% polyester yarn. But you don't have to use polyester, just some type of number 6 super chunky yarn. But you want to make sure it's soft. So, and there is about 181 yards per skein, and I used not quite 2 skeins, so probably like 120 yards, maybe something like that. But if you get this brand, you want to get 2 of them. And I used a size N, which is a 9mm crochet hook, and that's what I used for the blanket part. Now for the head of Hello Kitty, I'm using Red Heart Super Saver, which is just a worsted weight 4-ply acrylic yarn. You don't have to use acrylic, you can use cotton or whatever, as long as you want to make sure it's like a 4-ply yarn. And I'm using white, black, and some yellow scraps. I think that's the colors that I use. And for the Hello Kitty head, I'm using a size G, which is a 4.25mm crochet hook. And you don't need much yarn, really, of that. Just scrap yarn is probably going to be enough for that. Okay, I'm not going to show you how to do the square, because all the square is just a basic granny square. And you don't even have to use the square. You can use any square that you want. But I just used the basic, and I did 8 rounds of just the basic square. That's what I did. And you can actually make it larger or smaller if you want. But just remember, if you make it larger, you might need more yarn than what I suggested. But just make the basic granny. And if you don't know how to do that, I have a tutorial for that. The basic, I'll put a link to that below in the description box. And I did a total of 8 rounds on that. So that's using the baby blanket yarn and the 9mm crochet hook. So now I'm going to show you how to make the head of the Hello Kitty. So you want to get your size G hook, your 4.25mm. Oh, and you're also going to need some type of fiber fill or stuffing for it. I always take my kids' old stuffed animals that they don't use anymore, and I repurpose the stuffing out of them. I cut them open. I guess it's kind of weird, but that's what I do. Okay, you want to start with a slip knot on your hook. And you want to start off with a chain of 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now you want to do 2 single crochets in the second stitch from the hook. And remember, we never count the one that's on our hook. So 1, 2, and you want to put 2 single crochets into that stitch. So there's 1 and 2. Now you want to put 1 single crochet in each of the next 8 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, here's 6, 7, and 8. And now we'll have 1 stitch left, and we want to put 4 single crochets all into that last stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to work along the bottom side of the chain. So I'm just going to flip it, and I'm going to put 1 single crochet in each of the next 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. And now right up here in the very first stitch, we're going to put 2 single crochets in it. The very first one, remember we started by putting 2 single crochets in the first stitch of that same stitch. So we're going to put 2 in it, and counting those very first 2, we'll have 4. Like that. So if you count around, you should have a total of 24 stitches now. And now you probably want to get some type of a stitch marker. I'm just going to use a piece of yarn. And if you counted and you got 24 stitches, go ahead and put a stitch marker here. And that way you know where you start and where you end. So right here is your very first single crochet. Now we're going to put 2 single crochets in the first 3 stitches. So this one, and this one. We'll put 2 single crochets in each of the next 3. So 2 in that one, 2 in the next, and then 2 in the next. And now we're going to put 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now we're going to put 2 single crochets in each of the next 6 stitches. So around this corner here. So 2 single crochets in each of the next 6 stitches. So 2 in the next one. That's 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's 6. So that was 2 in those 6 stitches. Now I'm going to put 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So 1 in each of the next 6. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you'll have 3 stitches left right here. 1, 2, 3. You want to go ahead and put 2 single crochets in your last 3 stitches. So 2 in each of the last 3. Like that. And then you'll be back up here to your stitch marker. And you should have a total of 36 stitches this round. So now you want to pull out your stitch marker and move it up. And now I'm just going to be working around, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch. So I'm just going to jump to the next single crochet, and I'm going to put 1 in every single stitch around. And I'm going to do that for 5 rounds. And you should have 36 stitches at the end of every round. Just keep in your count of 36. 1 single crochet every stitch until I get around to my stitch marker. And then I'll just move my stitch marker up and go around again. And I want to do that for a total of 5 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch. Okay, now that you finished your 5 rows of 1 single crochet in every stitch, that's what it's starting to look like. And I made it back to my stitch marker. So now I'm just going to pull my stitch marker, put it back up here. Now I'm going to do decreases. I want to go ahead and put 1 single crochet in the first 4 stitches. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'm going to put a single crochet decrease. So I'm going to go into the next stitch and I'm going to draw up a loop. And then I'm going to go into the next one after that and draw up a loop. And you'll have 3 loops on your hook. You want to yarn over and go through all 3 loops. And that is a single crochet decrease. That took 2 stitches and made it into 1. And now I'm going to put 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm going to do another single crochet decrease. So I'm going to go into the next stitch and draw up a loop, and then into the next one and draw up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops on my hook. And now I'm going to put 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm going to do a single crochet decrease again, go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, the next one, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. So that is the repeat all the way around. 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet decrease, just like that. So you want to repeat that pattern back to the beginning. Okay, when you make it back to the beginning, I just did 4 single crochets and I have 2 stitches left, and that's where I'll do my last decrease. And you should have a total of 30 stitches at the end of this round. And when you make it to the end, you just want to move your stitch marker up. And now we're going to do 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around for 2 rows. So just go ahead and start working around, and you should have 30 stitches at the end of each row. So 2 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch. Okay, when you make it back around, after that 2 rows of 1 single crochet in every stitch, that's what it's starting to look like. Now I'm going to start to close it up a little bit more here. I'm going to pull my stitch marker up. Now I'm going to do 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And now I'm going to decrease, do a single crochet decrease. So I'm going to yarn over, or I'm sorry, go into the next stitch and draw up a loop, go into the next one, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3. And I'm going to put 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then I'm going to do a single crochet decrease, like that, 1 single crochet in the next, single crochet decrease in the next, 1 single crochet in the next, and then a single crochet decrease. So that's the pattern all the way around until you get back to the beginning. 1 single crochet, and then a single crochet decrease, 1 single crochet, and then a single crochet decrease all the way around. Okay, when you make it back around, you should have 20 stitches now. And now I'm just going to move my stitch marker up, and now I'm just going to be decreasing all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the next stitch and draw up a loop, go into the next one, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3, go into the next one, draw up a loop, go into the next one, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through all 3. I'm going to do this all the way around. until I get back to my stitch marker. And I'm back. When you're at your stitch marker, you can go ahead and pull it out and move it up. Now I'm going to put one single crochet in every stitch around. So just go ahead and put one single crochet in every stitch. It's got kind of a pretty small circle there, but that's fine. And you should have 10 stitches, 10 single crochets, like that. Now I'm going to move my stitch marker up, and I'm going to go around again with another row of one single crochet in every stitch. Oops. And there's 10. Now I'm just going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next stitch, which is where the stitch marker's at. So I'm going to pull my stitch marker out. Just go ahead and slip stitch into that. And then you can tie this off now. I like to leave a longer tail so I can sew this on later to the blanket. And then we can start stuffing this with our fiber fill. So you just take your filling stuff and start stuffing it in that hole. Get it all filled up nice and tight with stuffing. I find it easier to sew the eyes and stuff on after it's stuffed. I guess you could always sew the eyes on before you stuff it, but it's easier for me to do it this way. Because that way the head's shaped already and you can kind of tell where you're putting them. If it's flat, not stuffed, and you sew the eyes on, sometimes then you add the stuffing and they're in a different spot. So I only know that from experience. I made one already and I sewed the eyes on without stuffing it, and then the eyes were all weird, like one was over here. One was over here because it just lays different, and then when you stuff it, it looks different. So I learned just to stuff my stuff first. So you want to get it nice and tight. Once you get it stuffed, you can always add a little bit more stuffing at the end if you need to shape it up. But you can go ahead and set this to the side real quick, and we'll make a couple ears next. So you just want to start with a slip knot for the ears. And actually you want to leave start with a long tail because we'll use that to sew the ears on. So make your slip knot with a long tail. And we'll make both ears the same. So you want to start off with a chain of 2. 1, 2. And now we're going to put 4 single crochets into the first stitch. So go right back into that first one and put 4 single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now if you want to use the stitch marker here, you can. I probably will just so everybody can see. Go ahead and put a stitch marker here after that 4th single crochet. And now we're just going to jump over to our first one. So you want to count back 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And put it in the first one. That right there is that first chain we made. You don't want to go in that one. So we want to go into the next one. The 4th one back. And put 2 single crochets in it. So 1, 2. And then we'll put 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And then 2 single crochets into the next. And then 1 single crochet into the last stitch. And you'll have 6 single crochets now. And you got to kind of keep popping it up like that, because that's going to be the tip of the ear right there. And now we're going to move our stitch marker up, and I'm going to put 1 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And again, you got to keep popping it up. It tends to twist backwards like that. Move your stitch marker out, pull it back up. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And then 1 single crochet into the next. 2 single crochets into the next stitch. 1 single crochet into the next. 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And 1 single crochet into the last. And now you'll have 9 stitches. Pull your stitch marker up. Move it. Now you want to do 1 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 9 single crochets. Okay, when you make it back around, that's going to be the ear. So you want to go ahead and slip stitch into the next stitch. So you can go ahead and move your stitch marker now because you don't need it anymore. Go ahead and slip stitch into it and tie off. I'm going to tie off a long string. If you didn't, you could use either string as your long one, I guess. I started with a long one at the beginning. You could make this one long too. I guess it doesn't matter. But just so you have a long tail here to tie in. And then whichever tail you don't tie in, use to tie in, you want to hide it. Sew it in. And now we'll go ahead, you want to make 2 ears the same, but I'll go ahead and show you how to sew one on real quick. I always put you want to use your yarn needle to sew it on. And you kind of just sew it right up here, one in each of the corner spots. I always put a little bit of stuffing in it. Just a little bit. Just so it doesn't flatten down. So you just put it kind of right up here in the corner and sew it on. It's not really any certain way. However you can get it to stay on, but always just kind of grab it grab a piece from the head. And just go around it like that until it's on really tight. My needle's kind of rusty. I don't even know why I grabbed this one. Doesn't go through very well with the rust on it. But just like this, just to get it sewed on. And you want to do that all the way around, and then you can just clip your yarn and get your other ear sewed on. Okay, once you get your ears sewed on, look something kind of like that. And now the eyes and the nose are all made the same. So we just start with the slip knot. And you want to chain 2, 1, 2, and you want to put 4 single crochets in the very first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you want to slip stitch into your first single crochet. So count back 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you slip stitch into that first one, and then clip off a long tail to sew it on with. And you want to do one nose and then the 2 eyes. They're all done like this, like that. And you want to hide the tail that you're not going to sew in with. And we're going to sew them on the same way that we kind of sewed the ears on with a yarn needle. Let me look here what I'm doing. You just put them where you want them to go. Now, if it helps, you can pin them on while you're sewing them. It's really up to you, but you just kind of put them where you want. I'll put a pin here. I'm probably going to jab it in my hand. I always do that. And there, that'll work. And do your other ones. You don't have to pin them on, but I think it's easier to do that. That way you can kind of decide where you want to put them and they won't move on you. Looks kind of creepy now, don't she? And your nose. Get it pinned on where you want it. Like right here. So it's kind of starting to look the same. But just get them where you want them. Make sure you know they're kind of equal here. And then you just sew them on with your yarn needle in the same way you did the ears. Just grab a piece from the bottom and a piece around the edge. And go all the way around, sewing it on like that. Just like this. Take that pin out now. Just like that. So I'll go all the way around that one, and then I'll make sure this is where I want it, and I'll do this one and then the nose. Okay. Now you got your eyes and your nose sewed on. That looks kind of silly, I guess, but now we'll do the whiskers. So you just kind of turn it to the side. And you can kind of put them wherever you want, but probably start up here. Probably start up here at the top, and I kind of just go in. Leave kind of a longer tail there so you can sew it in later. And then I'll go back into that same spot and back out the other side where I just back out that spot. And that will be one whisker. Of course, you can put them wherever you want. And I'm going to skip one row and put my next whisker here. So I'm going to go right back into that same spot. Come out where I want to start my next whisker. So I'll skip that row and I'm coming out this next one. I'm going to go back, bring it around, even with this one. So right there. And then back out this same spot here. Like that. And then again, I'm going to skip a spot, skip this row, put my next whisker down here. So I'm going to go back into that same spot. Come out, skip a row, and come out into the next row. And bring it back around. Line it up here. And then come back out over here. Come back at the same spot again. And there's her 3 whiskers. So I'm going to go, this is how I hide the tail. I go right back into the same spot, and I kind of hide it through the eye. Since it's the same color, I'll bring it through the eye. Like that. And then I'll kind of just weave it in the eye area. Since it's black and you can't see it really, so that's kind of how I hide the tails for the whiskers. Like that. And I'll carry this one over and hide it in the black area too. So you want to do both sides of the whiskers the same. Okay, once you get your whiskers done, you want to do 2 arms the same. And that is a slip knot on the hook. And start with chain 2. 4 single crochets into the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can put a stitch marker here if you want. But go ahead and put 2 single crochets into the next single crochet. 1, 2, and then 1 single crochet into the next. 2 into the next. And then 1 into the last. And now you'll have 6 stitches. And again, you gotta kind of flip it to make it go the right way. But now you just want to continue around, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch. First, you'll have 6 rows. 6 rows now of 1 single crochet in every stitch. And there's 6 single crochets in each row. Okay, once you get the arm the length you need it to be, go ahead and slip stitch into your first one. Tie off and leave a long tail to sew on with, and you want to make 2 the same. And we're just going to sew it on right here down to the bottom. This is, I call this a little body, that little area there, with your needle, or your yarn needle. If I can find mine here. My desk is so messy, I can't even find anything. Okay, and then you want to put a little stuffing in it too. Just a little bit, like lightly stuff it, but I usually just take a little bit and put it here, and I use the end of my crochet needle here, and I show a little bit of stuffing in it. Not much, but a little bit like that. And then I already got one sewed on. Just take it and sew them right across from each other around this little area here. Just like you did, just like you sewed the other stuff on. So, just kind of sew it shut, sew the arm shut down here, and then sew it on. Sew it shut while you're sewing it. And then when you get both these sewed on, we'll be ready to sew it on to the blanket part. Okay, for Hello Kitty's bow, I'm just using the same thick yarn that I used for the blanket and for the big granny square and my big fat needle. And I started with a chain of 9. Now I want to do a half double crochet in the 3rd stitch from the hook, half double, and then a half double into the next stitch. and then a single into the next, a single into the next, a half double into the next, a half double into the next, and then a slip stitch into the last. And then tie that off. You want to lay it kind of long that you can sew it onto her ear. And now what I like to do is get your yarn needle. I take my yarn needle, I'd use a big one for this, and I kind of weave it in over to the center area. Right about here. And then I'll just wrap this around the center a few times. Make it look like a bow. And then I'll just weave this part in and tie this one off. And then I'll use this one to sew on Hello Kitty's ear up here, just like you did, sewed everything else on, just the same way. Okay, to sew it on with your square, you just use that long piece that we had from left over from the body there, or if you accidentally cut that off, just get another piece. And I'm going to sew it right on here to the center of my piece. And I'm just going to sew it on, just like I sewed everything else on. I'm going to grab a piece, and then a piece of the Hello Kitty, go through. Like that. A piece of the blanket. That. A piece of the Hello Kitty. Oh. Just like that. And I'm going to go around the whole Hello Kitty. Just getting it sewed on here to the blanket. And I want to make sure, go up under the arms, that it's sewed on good and tight. And when I get to the arms here, let me grab on a little piece of the arm. I kind of like to sew the bottom shut right here, so pull through. Right here, how the bottom's kind of open. Now I'll just kind of take it and go to the other side like this. And that's going to sew it shut. And go back here, grab a piece on that goes to the other side. Pull it tight, and then one more time just to get it sewed up. I guess you could have did that before, but I always just kind of do it when I'm sewing it. And now I'm just going to continue sewing my Hello Kitty on to my blanket. And I'm just going to keep going around, sewing it on until I feel like it's tight enough. Like it's not going to come off. I guess I should have said before you sew it up would be the time that you'd want to, if you want to add any more stuffing or whatever, but I guess you probably knew that. So I'm just going to keep going and getting my kitty sewed on real tight to the blanket. You don't want it to come off. Okay, once you get your Hello Kitty sewed on, you're all done. You can always go around the square with some type of edging or whatever if you want, but that's it. That's all there is to it. Maybe not the greatest Hello Kitty, but you can tell that it's Hello Kitty. So, but that's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you make this or anything else, I'd really like to see a picture of it. You can post the picture on the Bagoday Crochet Facebook page. I'll put a link to that below in the description box. And until next time, have a good day.